نحن نقص عليك أحسن القصص.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Ibrahim lives with Lady Sarah and Lady Hajra in the region of Palestine. And at an old age, he is blessed with a son, Ismail, through his wife Hajra. Ibrahim forms a very intimate attachment with his son. And it is but natural that he would also form a very intimate bond with the mother of his son. Bibi Sarah, as the days went on, felt sense of envy and jealousy to the extent that she could contain herself no more. Now, either at the request of Bibi Sarah or at the command of God, and it prevails as if it was both the want of Lady Sarah and the command of God, that Ibrahim sets off with Hajra and Ismail, who is still a very little child, who is a baby, infant still, suckling. And he goes through valleys and hills and plains and deserts until he comes to Makkah. And he places Bibi Hajra and Ismail under the shade of a tree and leaves them with some food and water in the water skin, enough for 2 days. Now, this was the place where the house of Allah was to be built. Ibrahim turns around and walks away. Lady Hajra becomes quite emotional. She runs behind him and she says, "Ibrahim, where do you leave us? In whose care do you leave us? Your child will die in this wilderness and in this heat. There is no food here, there is no vegetation, there is no water." As she spoke with him, he did not respond. After becoming somewhat emotional, she calmed down and she said, "Ibrahim, is this by the consent of Allah?" To that, Hazrat Ibrahim said, "Yes, indeed it is." At that point, she turned back and went to Ismail and sat under the shade of the tree, and she said, "In that case, Allah will not let us be destroyed." At a distance, Hazrat Ibrahim ascended his steed or his camel, and he looked towards them and towards the house of God, or the place where the house of God was to be built. And he said, "Oh Allah, indeed, I leave some of my offsprings and my family near your house so that they may establish prayer. Oh God, I leave them in a place that has no vegetation, has no water, has no people. But oh Allah, feed them from the best of the sustenance that this place has to offer, and bring the hearts of people mercifully to them." Hazrat Ibrahim makes this prayer that is recorded within the Quran, and he leaves. Lady Hajra consumes the water that is there within the water skin, through which she produces milk for the sustenance of Hazrat Ismail. Within a day or so, the water finishes, and under the scorching heat of the sun, the young baby starts to starve because the mother is no longer producing any milk and sustenance for the child. She leaves the Prophet Ismail under the shade of the tree, and she goes out in search for water. She ascends the hill of Safa and looks on to see if she can see any people. It is said that she saw a mirage towards the Mount of Marwa. So she hastened from the Safa mountain and she ran towards Marwa. This is the reason why at Hajj we are told to walk speedily or even to jog slightly between Safa and Marwa at a particular point. She arrives at the mountain of Marwa and she looks on, but she does not find anything, nor does she see anyone. In desperation again, she goes towards Safa and then again to Marwa. Then she comes back to her child and she sees that he is struggling and that death is imminent if she cannot feed him. She rushes back to the mountain with the anticipation that she might find somebody and she might call out to someone. She goes back to Safa and then looks on and runs to Marwa. When she finishes the 7th round and ends up at Marwa, she hears a voice. So she stops and she looks and she says, "Oh, you who have made me hear your voice, allow me to see you and help me to find some water so that I may drink and feed my child." At that point, the voice calls on to her and she looks in the direction. It is coming from the direction of her son, Prophet Ismail. And she says, Jibrail standing there, the archangel. And Jibrail strikes his heel upon the earth. And as he strikes his heel upon the earth, water starts to gush. Lady Hajra sees this in amazement and she runs towards the water. With her hands, she starts making a basin to contain the water and she cries out, "Zam Zam." In other words, stop spilling, contain yourself. The Blessed Prophet has said that had Hajra not commanded the water to be contained, it would have surely become a spring and would have flown upon the earth till eternity. Hajra drinks the water and feeds her son.